Good afternoon, everybody. This is Donnie with Standing Goats Rescue. We've been pretty busy here this past week, but it's not what you think it is. We haven't been working a whole lot. We've been going to Gulf Coast Jam on Panama City Beach. One of Kim's friends had hooked her up with some tickets. We were not going to go because we just can't afford the tickets to go this year. But we were blessed with 2 tickets. We could not find a third one for Rosie, and they were just super expensive. And so Rosie is, she spent a week with Chris and his family, and now she's spending from this past Thursday until tomorrow morning with her Aunt Debbie. So Kim and I having some time together where because I work normally 7 days a week, and I'm either at home outside the entire day or I'm up here at the property. I'm constantly involved doing something. But today I'm up at the property. I just want to share an article or two while I'm here with you, and possibly share with you guys a vision I had several years back. And I feel in my heart I need to share it, and I'll explain that to you in a minute. But I want to share this article with you, sent to us from our brother Don Moore. Now, I'm sorry about my sinuses. There's something in bloom out here, and it's tearing me up right now. All right, this one is titled Goatman at the Front Door. We don't know the exact date when it happened, but it is in recent years. The location is kept private, for the family's sake. People are still there. And the information source is multiple eyewitnesses from the family involved. It reads, when I was younger, me and my sibling were home alone one day. My parents often stayed out late getting drunk, so we were often alone at home. And we would often sleep in the living room. When I was that young, I would leave the front door closed but unlocked so my parents could come through when they returned home drunk. I didn't know any better at the time. I didn't want my parents fumbling for keys in the dark and drunk at the same time, possibly hurting themselves or getting angry at us because they could not get inside. It seemed the easiest thing to do was to leave the front door closed but unlocked right there in the living room. We were sleeping on different couches one night when suddenly my oldest sister shoved me awake, and when I opened my sleepy eyes, I could see her face was white with fear. When I asked what was wrong, she told me to look at the doorknob. Through my sleepy vision, I looked over at the front doorknob, and it was turning as if someone or something was trying to open it. My sister immediately ran over and locked the door. This confused me because I was certain it was only my parents trying to get back inside. When I asked why she locked it, she simply told me to hush, and then she went to grab a baseball bat from my bedroom. Still confused on what was going on, I heard a voice on the outside of the front door say in a weird voice, "Jenny, Aaron, open the door for your dear mother." It kind of sounded like my mom's voice, but more raspy and inhuman. I knew my mother's voice, and it didn't take me but a few seconds to realize that what was on the other side of the front door was not my mother. It had a double track to its voice, which told me this wasn't a person at all. Whatever this thing was, it was trying to copy my mother's voice, which struck fear through my whole body. Being a young teenager, I began to cry, and my older sister prayed to God for that thing to leave. Eventually, the doorknob stopped turning, and the thing walked away. Later that night, our parents finally came home. We told them what we had heard and saw earlier that night. My dad went outside with his shotgun, then came back inside and said he didn't see anything outside in the dark. We all went back to bed but didn't get much sleep. 2 weeks later, we were outside playing hide and seek in the woods with our younger 12-year-old sibling. It began getting very dark, so we started on the 2-mile walk back home. At one point, I hear behind us the same voice say, "Jenny, Aaron, open the door for your dear mother." The very same words spoken the same way from 2 weeks earlier. Whatever the thing was at our front door previously was now with us here in the woods, but this time there was no door separating us from it. Instantly, we all turned and saw a sight we'll never forget. My mouth opened wide with disbelief. It was not a human. It had the legs of a goat, but the upper body of a man and a goat's head with very large horns. Then the smell hit us, a smell of rotting something. Our senses kicked in that we were being hunted, so we turned and ran as fast as we could back home without looking back once. When we reached home, we ran inside and locked the door behind us. Our dad was in the kitchen and we told him everything. He sat us down and admitted the truth, that 2 weeks ago, when he had walked outside with a shotgun, he had saw the creature standing in the tree line on 2 legs. He didn't want to tell us so as not to scare us, nor could he lift up his gun to take aim out of sheer fright. He told us to never go back into those woods. And that's the end of that article. Guys, it's really windy out here today. It's blowing quite hard. I didn't think it would be blowing like this today. I knew it would be windy, but this is excessive. I don't have a lot of time. I've got to get home. We've got one of the other goats, one of the smaller ones, not a baby, but a smaller goat, is down right now. And we're hoping it's not the same stuff we just went through with our buddy Goomba. I hope not. There's not much they can do. There's not an inoculation for that. Whatever it is, not as of yet. Hopefully we'll find something out soon whenever we can get the results from whatever it is they find out. See, we got one here. There are some photographs with these, but guys, I'm not going to be sharing the photographs right now. It's really bright out here, and I would have a hard time holding a sheet of paper up in front of the camera. We'll be doing these on a live show. Gee whiz, this wind is crazy. Just bear with me for a minute. All right, here we go. I'm so sorry. All right. This one, still on the same topic, cryptid topic. This is another Goatman article. This one's titled Goatman in the Basement. And the year is the same. We don't have the exact date, but it's in recent years. It is at a private residence, which is a 2-story house surrounded by forest. And the information source for this article is eyewitness testimony and a report filed by the police department. One night I thought I was alone in my house just watching some TV when I suddenly heard a noise down in my basement. This had happened before, and I always thought that something had just fallen down, so I didn't pay much attention to it. I sat there watching TV, feeling safe in my home, assuming all my doors were locked and nothing could break into my house. Soon I heard the noise from the basement again, and I told myself that nothing was down there and I'm just being paranoid. I continued watching TV, and then I heard the noise a third time, so I walked downstairs to get to the basement. As I opened the basement door, I heard something from the kitchen. Someone or something was in my house. I called a friend, and he said he'd be over in about 10 minutes. So I went to my bedroom with my door locked, and I waited. Thinking about how all of the exterior doors in the house were locked, I wondered how the kitchen door had been opened. For the next 5 minutes, I heard a lot of different noises in my house from inside my locked bedroom. I called out, "Who's there?" But no one would answer. I opened my bedroom door very slowly, peeking down the hallway before I exited and leaned over the railing of the stairs, looking down towards the basement. And then I heard a loud scream. I was paralyzed. The scream was coming from within my house. It didn't sound like a person, but like a distressed animal. I continued to watch down at the basement, and that's when I saw it. Uh, and that's when I saw it was even making eye contact with this horrible creature. It was unlike any animal I had ever seen. It nearly resembled a goat, almost. But the thing was standing up on its back 2 legs and hoofs 4 feet as if it was a person. This horrified me. I then heard the front door opening. My friend was here, and I imagined what horrible things this creature might do to him if he walked in and was blindsided by this Goatman thing. I swallowed my fear and did what I had to do. I jumped over the railing and to the first floor and ran right to the front door and opened it. My friend looked at my face and asked me why I looked like I had seen a ghost. I pulled him further outside and shut the front door behind me. I told him exactly what I saw, no matter how crazy it may have sounded. Then I took off running, and so did my friend without asking any questions. We both ran. I don't think he believed me. We both ran to his vehicle, got inside, and locked all the doors. Looking at me irritated, my friend says, "Stop the joking. What's going on?" I repeated what I had told him on the front porch, that there was someone or something in my house and that it resembled a goat and a man mixed. My friend was frowning now and realizing I was not lying. I dialed 911 and we waited in the car for the rest of the night. The police eventually showed up and found nothing inside the house except the front door wide open. Of course, I didn't tell the police what I had actually saw. I simply said someone had broken in while I was home. It scares me to know that they didn't find it because it just means that it's still out there. I'm surrounded by woods where I live, and it irks me to know this Goatman creature could be hiding or lurking behind any tree and at any time waiting for me to leave a door unlocked. Why did it head down to the basement, I wondered. Did it smell something it liked, or was it seeking a better, darker, and secluded spot to wait for me and then jump out and attack? It made me think of all these stories differently. I always made fun of people claiming to see paranormal things. That, to me, it didn't make any sense. Like, oh, you saw a dogman, whatever. Or, you saw a ghost. What were you smoking? Now I feel very guilty about that. It really makes you humble when something inhuman like a Goatman breaks into your house while you were inside. And that's the end of the article. And there are pictures with this one. And again, you guys, I'm going to try, if I remember, we're going to do some other things. Stepping into the bizarre side of the cryptic journey. We're going to, these Goatman creatures, and there's so many other very odd paranormal-like beings roaming the earth. And I do believe these creatures absolutely exist, without a doubt. We don't have the answers. Too many people are seeing these things for it not to be something actually there. You guys, I want to share with you the vision I had, and it is long, and I'm not sure. I guess we could do it today. Let me check. I got Kim's messaging me. Okay. No. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and share that. And we'll just kind of, let me grab my water. It is so hot out here. Oh, and I'm stove up. Sorry about that. I had to get some water. I'm really, really hot. I'm going to try to break this down short. The actual, this vision I'm going to share with you, I'm not going to shorten it. I'm going to share it exactly as I seen it. I may shorten some of the details leading up to when this happened. But anyhow, as many of you know, I was saved. I gave my life to Christ in 2012. I've always been a believer. I always prayed, but I only prayed when I was in trouble or I needed help. I didn't pray just to thank the Lord for another day. I didn't pray just to glorify Him, for allowing me to live. I prayed when I was in trouble, when I was sick, when I really needed something to happen or not to happen. It was more of I prayed when I couldn't get what I wanted through a, I don't even know the word, through our human tools. When I couldn't accomplish what I set out to accomplish and I needed to accomplish it, then I would pray. And that's not the right way to live, but that's how I was living. And 2012, 2011, I really had a lot happen. I had that encounter in Marianna, Florida that ruined me, and just so much was happening in my home. On the paranormal side, I had things visiting my home. I lived in a trailer house. I had something get on the roof of the trailer and stomp dents in the roof with me inside of it. There was a lot that happened, and I finally had enough. The only answer, the only true help I was going to get was going to come from up there, from our Creator, and I surrendered, and I turned everything over to Him and said, guide me wherever you will, but just help me, and I'll push forward. All right. Now, when I made the decision, gave my life to Christ, I was given what's considered a gift were visions. I didn't want them. I didn't like having visions, seeing things before they happened. I did not like it at all. I prayed several times and asked God to take it away from me because I didn't want to see. And the majority of the visions that I had have come to pass, and it's been a lot. I was having multiple visions every day of the week, 7 days a week for a long time. And it started slowing down around 2013, 2014. And then it got to where I had 3-4 visions a week, and then it got to where it's about one a week, and then a few a month, and then one a month, and now it got to where I may have 2 or 3 a year. It's really, really slowed down. But there's a reason for me to receive the visions. And talking to our old head pastor at our church, who we called an apostle, he believes, because the way that I am and the way that God created me, I was really bad at this when I was younger and before I got saved, before I had my encounter. Somebody could tell me something, and it didn't have to be off the wall. They could, tell me, hey, I raked my entire front yard today by myself in 30 minutes, and I'd support them. Oh yeah, well, good deal. That's awesome. But in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, sure you did, because I didn't see it. I didn't see it. I didn't witness it, and I believed very little that I didn't see with my own eyes. And our apostle at the church believes that's why I was given visions, because of my inability to believe what another man tells me. And now, I wouldn't call anybody a liar. I would not bash them for what they shared with me. I never did that. I would agree with them and play as though I believed them, but inside my heart, I did not. And having all them visions changed me. And yeah, I absolutely believe people now when they tell me stuff, even some of this extreme stuff in regards to the paranormal, the supernatural, the cryptic realm, just all of this. Yes, I believe people. Now, I'm going to get on with the vision I had. I don't want to hold up your time, just lollygagging. I lay down one night, and I am very routine in how I live. At the end of the night, I get cleaned up, lay down in bed, close my eyes, say my prayers, reach out to the Father in heaven, and I pray to Him. I give thanks, and I do everything that is how I close out my day. And once I'm done praying, I close my prayer out, and then I get comfortable and try to get relaxed, close my eyes, and I just lay there until I drift off to sleep. And it's what I do. I still do that today. Well, I said my prayers, I closed my prayer out, and then I opened my eyes. I tried to reposition a little bit up on my pillow. I was a little uncomfortable. I got positioned right, put my hands on my stomach like this, kind of crossed them, and I closed my eyes, and I was taken immediately. This was the only time that I've ever had this particular event happen. I would have visions, and a lot of them that I had, Kim was beside me. Some of them were at bedtime, and I would talk, but I wouldn't open my eyes because I'm always afraid the vision would stop. And some of them are so fascinating what I'm seeing, so I would keep my eyes closed, but I would be telling Kim, she's beside me, and I would be telling her what I'm seeing as this vision's playing out. Well, this particular night, Kim and I were not married yet, so I was living in my trailer, she was living in her home. I closed my eyes, and it was not a vision. I was literally taken. I believe it was my spirit, my soul that was taken, and I was with another being, and I do believe it to be an angel, without a doubt. It was a holy being, a very powerful being. I could feel that from him. I never seen him. I never looked at him. It was a male, a masculine figure. Very soft spoken, but very powerful. The words when he spoke were, cutting edge. It would just drill into you. There was no avoiding what he said, but he was very soft spoken. And he took me to a place, it was in California, in which I've never been to California, but it was in California, and it was in the mountains. There is a valley. There's a dirt road. I don't know how we got there. I think we flew, literally. Not in a craft, but in the air. We just flew. I don't know how to explain it. I went from my bed, I just closed my eyes, to where I'm in the sky. Above this mountain range. We're very close to it. We're very, very close to the ground. There's a particular mountain. It looked like the mountain, the end of it come to like a point, and it looked as though somebody cut it off to where it had a flat top on it, and they built a 2-story house, like a miniature mansion, beautiful home, big home, but it wasn't a gigantic home. 2-story, and the front yard was this point, and the edge of this point was a drop-off, a sheer drop-off, and you could see the mountains across that valley. It was like a valley down there, and the road hugged the edge of that cliff, and then it pulled around to the front of the house. We were in the front yard, 50 foot or so above the ground, and I'm seeing the house, I'm seeing the landscape around me, the mountains, the deep valley right there. It went down several hundred feet. And then we were in the backyard. I don't remember going over or around the house. We went from the front yard, within a millisecond, we was in the backyard. We're down at ground level as though we're standing there. This being is beside me. I never seen him. I never looked toward him. I had no desire to look at him. I was not afraid. I felt very protected, very loved, and very much at peace with this being I was with. And he was showing me these things. And in the backyard, my back was toward the house, the back of the house. There's a pool, an in-ground pool right here. They had a concrete deck around the pool. Around the outside edge of the deck was a short, knee-high white picket fence, very, very short picket fence. And in the center of this fence, there was an opening to it, little miniature gates. They had them open, and like a little walkway about 25 foot, it went back a little further, and there was a small stage on the ground, and there was an arch on top of the stage, and it was a setup. There were chairs on both sides of the walkway between the fence and this arch, this platform. There were chairs on both sides. Somebody was getting married. I have no doubt. There was a marriage ceremony that it was about to happen. And there were a lot of people. They were talking. Everybody was dressed up really nice. The men were real clean, just looked very nice. The women were, beautiful outfits. Everybody was dressed for like an occasion, like a marriage. Now behind this platform, this stage, there was another little white knee-high picket fence. And then if you step over the fence, there was about a 5-foot section. And then the ground went up like a sheer cliff, like a wall of rock from the mountain. It went straight up right there. Well, the ground, everything started shaking violently. And people are running, they're screaming and panicking, they're falling. The chairs are falling over. The little archway where the ceremony was going to happen, it fell over. Within the ground cracked. Behind the stage, this platform, behind the little picket fence, right at the base of this sheer rock face, the ground cracked. This entire point this house was on started going down the mountain. People were falling down the crack. They were jumping across. Some of them, 3 or 4 people made it across, and they're trying to hold on to that sheer rock face. And some of them fell down in the crack. The whole house and all was going down. And then we were taken out of there. Now, I know for a fact we were in California. I do not know where. I did not ask, but I knew where we were at. We were taken from there, and now we're on the East Coast. We were in the air, way up in the air, like at the level aircraft fly. We were way up there. We're looking down at the mountain ranges below us. And there was 3 mountains directly below me, one of them being quite large. They did not have snow caps on them. There were mountains around us that did, but these did not. They were big. They were really high mountains, but not high enough to be in the upper elevations where they had snow cap. Well, they just collapsed. These 3 below me, they collapsed into the ground. And there was this gigantic hole, like an air pocket, these mountains dropped in, and it just kicked debris all up in the air. And as the debris was somewhat settling, you could see the mountain, the top of it. It was no longer a mountain. Now it was sort of like a bowl where it fell way down in this hole. And I asked this angel with me, I said, are we near the Capitol? Because for some reason, it felt like we were near the capital of the United States. That's the way it felt. And he said, yes. And at the time, President Obama was in office, and I said, is President Obama okay? And he says, yes. They were not affected by this event. And what was odd was, I don't know my history, my geology. I don't know the history of the country. And up until I had this vision, in my mind, I knew the White House was on the West Coast up near Oregon. That's where I believed it was. I thought it was in Washington. I didn't know it was in Washington, D.C. I thought Washington, D.C. was Washington. But during this time when this angel had me in the air watching this, I knew I was by the Capitol. I knew that. And I also knew this mountain range we were above was on the East Coast. And it confused me. And that's why I asked him if it was near the White House. And he clarified, yes, it is. Well, after all this happened, later, the following day, I got on the internet and Googled, where is the White House? And that's when I found out it's on the East Coast. I didn't know. And yes, I'm ignorant when it comes to that type thing. I did not know. And this was 2013. Well, we leave that scene that we're in. And the next scene, we're in the United States, I assume around Ohio area is the way it felt. I don't know. I'm in places I've never been before. So never been to Washington, never been to California. This city I was in, I've never been to it either. We were at the point where you have the big buildings for the city, and then the houses start. The regular, single family dwellings, the houses, they start. we're laying in a yard. This house is a single level house, like a standard 3-bedroom, 2-bath size home. It's got a double driveway, double width. They have a chain link fence around the yard, and there's a 6-foot or 8-foot picket fence, or not picket, I'm sorry, privacy fence that was on the outside of the chain link. I'm laying in the grass beside the driveway. We're up close to the fence, and we're looking out the gate. We're right by the gate. I've got a U.S. soldier on my right shoulder. I've got a soldier on my left shoulder. And this angel being it felt like he was directly behind me, like at my feet, but a little to my left. I've got 2 soldiers here with me. I'm between them. And we're looking out the sidewalk just outside the gate. We're right 5 foot from the gate. The other side of the fence is the sidewalk that takes you right into the city. The next lot on the other side of this yard I was in, there's a building right there. That's where the city started, all the big buildings. It's got a very narrow parking lot right on the street. You pull in off the street just enough to park one vehicle up to the building, but it probably could hold 15 cars, parked in it. The soldier beside me on my right side got shot. I could hear the gunfire, and I could see Marines and some Army guys running past. They're armed, they're in uniform, they're running past, they're getting shot, they're falling. I'm watching our soldiers being taken out. The guy beside me gets taken out. Then the guy on my left side gets taken out. I was not afraid of being shot. I knew, without a doubt, this being that was with me was protecting me. I could not be shot. I knew that. And I can't explain it, but it was a feeling I had. We left from the yard, and now we move out into the street. And now I'm not walking. I don't know if I'm being carried, we're floating, I have no idea. I don't know how we're moving. We go out in the street, out of this driveway, and I'm looking into the parking lot of this building. This is where the majority of the gunfire is coming from. There is a white pickup truck, like a Ford Ranger or a Toyota. It's a small truck. It's pulled into this parking lot. It's got a couple of guys in the cab, some guys in the bed. They got this big gun mounted in the back of the truck, and they're jumping out. They're running around the truck, and they are mowing our soldiers over. And it infuriated me. And these guys are in robes. They got the turban on their head. And I asked this angel with me, I said, why are these Muslims killing our soldiers? And he says, they're not Muslims. And I tell him, I said, they are Muslims. Yes, they are. I mean, they look like the Muslims you see on TV. And that's what I associated. I said, look, I'm looking at them. They got turbans. They got the long, like gown-like things on. And I said, they look like Muslims. He said, they are not Muslims. He says, they are Russian. They were dressed to appear to be like Saudi Arabian people. They were dressed, this was done purposely. They were Russian soldiers dressed up as Saudi Arabians, and they were on our soil shooting our soldiers. Before I could ask any more questions, we were gone. We were out of there. And I don't know where I was at. It was a foreign country. I do not know where. There were 2 buildings. They were very close to one another. One building was, I don't know the direction. I'm just to give you an example. The front side of one of these 1-story little flat buildings was facing north. The front side of the other building would be facing east. They had one little sidewalk that went in front of one building. It turned 90 degrees and went along the front of the other building, so it formed like an L. The walkway, the little sidewalk, had a little awning over it that covered it, protected you from the sun. And then on the courtyard side of it, it had like a knee-high brick wall. And there was a little opening right there, but it went around, it followed the walkway. In this little courtyard area, there's a few little sprigs of something growing, but it was not grass. It was mostly an orange-colored, sandy, it had little bitty rocks all over the ground, but it was mostly dirt. like an orange colored dirt. It looked very hard and very dry. Way off in the distance, there was a mountain range. You could see the mountains, over the horizon. They looked to be 3 miles from us, but you could see the mountains, and they weren't really high. They were low, but they stretched a long way. There's 3 guys standing there, and they got shaved heads, and they had this beautiful robe on, and it had beautiful designs in the front. They had like gold lace. If I remember, it was purple on them, like a gold colored thread, and then some purple in the threading, the material, and then it had what looked like gold buttons, and it was really pretty what they were wearing. But all 3 of these men had this on, and they were holding a vase. Each of them had their own vase, and it had 2 handles, one on each side, and they were chanting. I don't know what they were chanting. They were wearing sandals, sort of looked like monks in a way. They kind of resembled monks. They were not monks. I don't know what these guys were. I've never seen the attire that they were wearing. I've never seen that before. But they were praying or chanting. It was in a language I am not familiar with. And all 3 of them were doing the same thing. They're doing this little chant. They're all together in this little courtyard doing this. And then they hold their vases up in the air, and they start to pour them out, and I'm expecting to see like blood or some type of liquid coming out. That's what my mind was expecting. But when the content started coming out of the vase, it was a super fine powder, and immediately it looked like ashes, like someone being cremated, but it was super fine. There were no chunks or anything in it. It was just super fine powder. And as they poured it out, it went straight to the ground, and about 6 inches before it hit the ground, it was like it hit an invisible, like a big sheet of glass. It never touched the ground. It got about 6 inches above the ground, and it didn't splatter, but it started spreading at an incredible rate. And it's covering the entire landscape, and it's traveling at phenomenal speeds, going out away from us toward these mountains, and it just covered everything in seconds. This stuff was, and it did not leave 1 centimeter uncovered. It covered everything, but it never touched the ground. It stayed about that high above the ground the entire time. Right before it hit the mountain, as it got to the base of the mountains to go up it, I was taken away again. And I don't know what that was about. And this was the last scene. This was the one that scared me. I was in Florida, between Central Florida and South Florida. I do not know where I was at. I've never been to this area. I've never seen pictures of it. I don't know what it looks like. I know what I seen where I was at. There were houses. They were on fairly large lots, maybe a half-acre lot. The houses were set back about 100 feet from the road, but all the houses looked very much alike. Some of them had fences. They did not go around the property. They were like border fences between different lots, and they would go out and stop at the sidewalk. They didn't go to the curb. They didn't go down the front of the houses. The few that had a fence, that's all it was a divider fence, chain link. There were people in yards. There was an old, like a 71 or a 70 to 73 maybe, model Volkswagen Beetle, a yellow one, like a cream colored yellow, was parked on the curb across from us, kind of to the left. And people are running around. There's people on their knees in their yards. They got their head covered, and they're rocking back and forth. They're praying. A lot of people are out praying. People running and screaming. It was just panic. And the air was orange. Everything was orange. And looking up toward the sky, you could see the sun, but there was so much dust in the air. All you seen was a yellow ball, like a dull yellow ball against a orange background. Everything's orange. And there were balls of fire And immediately when I seen this, I thought a volcano had erupted and the debris is flying out. But what puzzled me was these molten rocks of lava is what they look like. Some of them were as big as a dime, some of them were as big as a small house. They weren't coming from one direction as though a volcano blew up and everything's being shot out away from it. They were coming from the north, from the south, from the east. They were coming from every direction. And you could hear them. When they would pass kind of close, they kind of fizzled like electricity, kind of a tss noise. And they would zip by so fast. As soon as you seen one and you heard it, it had already hit 5 miles that way. They were moving so fast through the sky. The yellow Volkswagen that was across from us, one hit it and just completely caved the car in, destroyed the car. People were being hit, houses were on fire, everything was being obliterated by this. And I blurted out when I seen this, it scared me. I was really scared. While I was here seeing it, it frightened me horribly. And I said, fire and brimstone is what I verbally said out loud. And then I was sent back into my body and I opened my eyes, I sat up and just started bawling. It scared me so bad. And now I was not asleep when this happened. I was fully awake. I knew I was awake. I could feel Piglet laying across the lower part of my leg where I was in the bed. She laid on my leg once I got comfortable. And I laid back, she laid over my leg, I closed my eyes, and I was taken that quick. And I never went to sleep. I stayed up to about midnight that night. That vision has never come to pass, and I hope it doesn't. But this was back in 2013, about 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I was listening to a podcast, a man who studies the Bible, and he's been able to explain a lot of events, celestial events that have happened, and showing where in the Bible that says it's going to happen, and it did happen. He's decoded the Bible, so to speak, and he's explaining one of the end time events right before the return of the Most High God's Son, Yeshua, Jesus. Right before he returns, the great day of the Lord happens, and he's explaining one of the events is, now I'm not getting on a Planet X Nibiru thing, I'm not going there at all. This man was explaining wormwood and what the Bible says about wormwood coming from Orion and what it does when it passes. It does not hit the earth, but it passes close, and there's a meteor tail, debris trail dragging behind this thing, and the earth supposedly goes through it, and as this celestial body makes the circle around the sun and it takes back out into space, the earth goes through the debris trail, and then as we come around the sun, we go through it again. And he describes it'll cover like a third of the earth, and when we go around the sun, another third will be hit again when we go through that debris. But what he described, scientific research into what it would look like, the best they could come up with, he described the exact scene that I witnessed in that vision. I hope that's not what it is, but if that's going to come to pass, it's going to be bad, and I hope it does not happen in any of our lifetime. The way things are going and how fast it's happening, it's very possible. But guys, I wanted to share that vision with you. It's been on my heart really hard. And Brother Don said, well, maybe you were supposed to share it with everyone. And that never crossed my mind. And I started thinking about it here just recently. That vision came back, and I've been thinking about it, and I shared it with Brother Don. And the first thing he said, well, maybe you're supposed to share it. It sounds like to me that you are. When he said that, I got an inner peace that hit me in my core, and I knew I needed to share it. I don't know the significance of why. There's nothing we can do to stop it if that does happen. I hope it doesn't. But I have talked to a couple of people that are in the sort of priest, pastor, apostle, way up the chain in a biblical nature as far as like religion. And what I was told by 3 different people, it sounds to them as though I was what is called translated. Enoch, I think Elijah, Noah, they were translated in a sense. They didn't die and were buried. They were just taken. They were gone. There was no body left behind. They were just taken. And they called that translating, being translated. But you could also be translated in a sense where your soul is taken and shown something, taken to somewhere else in the universe or the planet or where, I don't know what the limits are, but your soul is taken to where you can witness something firsthand and then you're returned, and that's called translate. And these 3 different people, and these were through 6, 7 years of, the few people I've talked to, 3 of them unassociated with one another, they don't know one another. All 3 of them had mentioned I was translated. I don't know. That's the only time in my life that has ever happened. I've had hundreds and hundreds of visions. The most powerful and significant is the one I just shared with you. And that was not a vision. I was there. I seen these events. And I don't know why this stuff was shown to me. I didn't ask for it. I didn't want to see it. In a way, I'm glad I've seen it, I guess. But I wish I wouldn't have. The last event, I mean, it was scary seeing our soldiers being shot on our soil. That was scary. But not like seeing these big rocks on fire zipping through the air and destroying everything. There's no hiding from that. You'd have to go really, really deep underground to avoid something like that taking you out. And if it's a celestial body that will cause an event like that to happen, if you were to go underground and survive the initial blasts of that, when you resurface, there's not going to be any safe drinking water because of the radiation the meteorites carry with them. Everything's going to be polluted. And that's what this one biblical scientist was claiming. When wormwood is supposed to be a celestial body hitting the earth, pummeling the earth, and the radiation from this would make all the waters bitter. What the Bible calls it bitter. And that is radiation poisoning in all the waters. So everybody would slowly die eventually from that event. And I hope that stuff doesn't happen. Guys, I didn't mean to scare anyone. I hope I haven't scared you. I'm not declaring this is going to happen. I'm just sharing with you what I witnessed in a prophetic sense. Hopefully it doesn't happen. God forbid us, our children, our grandchildren, any of our lineage has to experience that. I hope we don't, but we know the great day of the Lord is coming, and what does that involve? It's only God has the power to destroy the earth in a way like that, and for it to happen that quick, and there's no hiding from it. If he wanted to take us all out, he could do it with a snap of his fingers. So he has the power to do that. But I don't know. Guys, I love y'all. God bless each and every one of you. I've got to get home. We got Kim's treating the little goat that's down right now. I got to get home and find out if we got to run up to the vet with her today. It's going to be an emergency call if it is, which is I was able to make a payment on 2 credit cards day before yesterday, so we got enough to get her treated if we have to, depending on what they charge us. But anyhow, I'll keep you guys updated on everything. I love you. Y'all have a wonderful day, what's left of the weekend, and I will absolutely see you soon. If any of you are going to be out at the Gulf Coast Jam tonight, Sunday night. I'm not sure of the date today. I think it's the 5th, the 4th. Today is Sunday, June 4th. If you're going to be out there tonight, Kim and I will be there. We will be sitting kind of toward the back. If you go back there, there's a little Dunkin' Donut booth with like an orange panel van next to it. And there's a Ferris wheel directly behind that, north of that. We'll be real close to that little Dunkin' Donut booth. And there's a booth, a building called Copenhagen Experience. We'll be kind of close to that. We'll be in the back. But yeah, if you're there, hop over, look for us. I'd love to see you. Hug your neck, shake your hand, give you 5, whatever it takes, just to see you in person. Y'all have a good day. I love you, and we'll see you soon. God bless. Take care. Be safe. Be kind. We'll see you down the road.